Y ahora me toca presentar a Erika Piirmets, que se conecta desde Estonia. Bienvenida, Erika. Cuánto gusto de
Hola,
tenerte
Jaime.
aquí conectada. Esta es la primera edición de nuestro evento Startup Connection, que es una de las distintas actividades que está desarrollando durante este año la Cámara de Comercio de Lima para promover el desarrollo tecnológico del emprendimiento tecnológico y la transformación digital en las empresas peruanas. No todo el mundo sabía, lo hemos venido comentando durante estos días previos al día de hoy, que Estonia es el país más digitalizado del mundo. Incluso en Europa está arriba de la media de la digitalización de los países europeos. ¿Cómo es que así se originó toda esta transformación digital en Estonia y cómo ahora la sociedad goza de los beneficios de la digitalización? De eso nos va a hablar Erika Piirmets. Ella es Digital Transformation Advisor en e-Estonia y el título de su conferencia es e-Estonia, el potencial innovador de la tecnología puesto al servicio de la sociedad. Es un gusto, un honor tenerte aquí, Erika, y te doy, por supuesto, el pase para que empieces con tu conferencia. Bienvenida, Erika.
Thank you so much for the invite. Here I'm going to share my screen so that you would be able to see also my presentation. Could somebody confirm that it is visible for you? I hope that you see. So, welcome.
Sí, ya se ve la pantalla, Erika.
Muy bien, muchas gracias. So hello to all the viewers from my part as well. I want to welcome you all to the Startup Connection 2022, hosted by the Lima Chamber of Commerce. Yes, indeed, my name is Erika. I am the Digital Transformation Advisor in the e-Estonia Briefing Center, and I am very, very honored today to tell you about the various aspects of digitalization in Estonia. And we will focus on the business side. So it was very, very curious to hear the two gentlemen talking before me about the startup community, what are their struggles, what are the different tips of how to maintain their business. So we will briefly talk about that as well. So could you imagine the communication with your own government as easy as using any kind of mobile application? And that all while serving the people through really citizen-centric government I'm going to tell you about today. But let's first talk about the roots of all of this. So I suppose that the question in everyone's mind right now is that why digitalization happen here in Estonia? Well, at first glance, when we see Peru and Estonia appear very different, but if you look closely, then actually we have two things in common. That would be smart people and the eagerness to drive forward. Estonia is really a sparsely populated country with a very relatively small population as well, right? And we had very small government budget when we regained our independence in 1991. So honestly, when we couldn't provide people with the traditional bureaucratic structures back then because of lack of money and manpower. But that is not an excuse for the government not to offer its services, even in the most remote areas. So offering services online for us was the necessity, really. And another factor to our benefit was the know-how that came from the Cybernetics Institute, established in Tallinn, in our capital, already since the 1960s. So when it was clear that we needed to start up building up the online technological solutions, our savvy specialists could be relied on. Now, when Estonia started building its information society, that was almost 3 decades ago, right? There was no digital data being collected about our citizens from the beginning. So the general population did not have internet connection, neither the devices with which to use it. And I must admit, it took a great courage to invest in IT solutions and take the information technology route. But I'm very proud of the decision makers because their digital minded leadership has brought Estonia to be the leader in e-governance and living in advanced society. How do we really benefit from digitalization? By now, you might be skeptical after hearing the backstory because, of course, Estonia is such a small country compared to Peru. But the beauty of digital governance is that the same e-service can be offered to one person or 33 million people. So next, here are only the few examples of money, of time saved when you are using online services that you could benefit from as well if you implemented the similar ways of digital governance that Estonia has now. Thanks to having 99% of the public services online, we can benefit from fast banking transactions. And when we go back to the beginning, the banking sector actually was one of the first private services that was tied to electronic identity because it was much more effective to use already safe authentication provided with the government issued electronic ID than to issue authentication methods by the banks themselves. Thanks to that, declaring taxes is the prime example of one of the first and most popular e-service in Estonia now, as it really only takes 3 minutes to declare my pre-filled declaration form. So the tax board is in charge of collecting all my data needed, and I only need to confirm that the data presented is indeed correct. So today, 96%, almost all of income taxes are declared online, which reveals another very important point. If digital service solves the problem of a population in a user-friendly manner, only a few people will refuse to use it. Everyone else will get on board. Digital signature can have a big economic save of around 2% of the GDP. And this investment is this amount of money is equivalent to the security commitment that Estonia is investing in NATO currently. And moreover, as you can see here, thousands of years of working time is saved thanks to the interoperability of the data through X-Road, which is a software using to safely exchange data between different public and private entities. So optimized procedures and digitalization save significant amount of bureaucracy that could be measured in hundreds of meters of stacked paper, for example. So these are really only some of the examples benefiting from the fastest decision making. In fact, when here you can see the 99% of the public services are online, you must be thinking, what is the 1%? So there are two things you cannot do online in Estonia, and that is marriage and divorce. Well, for now, at least, because these services are currently in digitalization process as well. Let's see how popular they will be. Let's move on to the business side more. Estonia is ranked #1 worldwide in the area of entrepreneurial activity. So from starting a company and declaring taxes to filing annual reports, you can really effectively do everything. And you don't have to leave your couch to do that. So it is really simple logic behind that. Where business is easy, business will grow. That is why Estonia is among the countries with the highest concentration of startups per capita and unicorns per capita. We are really considering to changing our national animal to unicorn with this rate. In Estonia, establishing a company takes about half an hour, though the record that we know have been measured lies only about 18 minutes. Imagine opening up your company in 18 minutes. Still, this simple environment is really most likely why 98% of people prefer establishing their companies online. The e-solutions offered by the state, such as the digital signature, electronic tax claim, e-business register, and the availability of public records also online, they provide transparency and efficiency. Estonian online services drastically reduce bureaucracy, and they keep the businesses globally competitive as well. So oftentimes Estonia is called the Silicon Valley of Europe. And indeed, our startup sector has been growing around 30% per year lately. So great e-services on one hand and a supportive ecosystem on another hand. Estonia is really the country to grow and test your startup, to be part of like-minded and collaborative community of startuppers, and to get mentorship from the successful founders with the background from Skype or Bolt, Wise, Pipedrive, others, the golden generation of founders. So to be really part of this startup nation, we offer like a digital testbed framework. So we invite really innovation to our country. You want to test your startup idea? Great. Come to Estonia. We can provide you a big set of data, different infrastructure, both physical or technological. Come and test your service and see if that, or your product, and see if that can be scalable, if that can really be applicable in the real life. And hopefully Estonia can gain a cool developing solution in this collaboration as well. So we are really a country that we welcome innovation. But we are not a country of big industry. So instead, our produce is intellectual and technological. And that is mainly thanks to the agile attitude in entrepreneurship, and also thanks to the simplest business environment that really facilitates the life of the entrepreneur. All of these wonderful services and e-solutions that I've been already talking about are available to Estonian citizens and residents thanks to the government-issued electronic ID. That is a safe and secure authentication method. This is how you can prove your identity in an online environment. So electronic ID is one of the core elements in Estonia's digital governance, as this trustworthy login enables me to access to all the services online. There can be a lot of Erikas in Estonia, but there is only one that is tied to my electronic identity. And through the government issued ID, I can always be sure that whenever I want to consume an e-service, I want to access my own different records that are online, that they are always safe and reoccurring authentication process that is verified from the government, that I always know that leads me to the correct set of data, and that my data is also safe from anyone else's login, that they just cannot access my account, let's say. But there is also a form of electronic ID that everybody listening today can obtain as well, and that is the e-residency. Estonia has opened its electronic ecosystem to the rest of the world through the e-residency program. And currently we have more than 91,000 e-residents operating their Estonian-based businesses remotely from all over the world, from more than 160 countries here. And but they are benefiting from the same digital signature, from the electronic identity, and the many electronic services, possibly from abroad. But please bear in mind that e-residence is not a physical identification, or this is not a travel document. It's not going to give you a visa or citizenship. It is a form of electronic ID that will allow you to use the same electronical ecosystem that Estonia has been building for almost 3 decades, and that our own citizens and residents are right now using. And if you think now that Estonia is a bit far for you to make business here, well, possibly you should think again. Here are only some of Latin American countries whose citizens are also e-residents. And many of them have never set foot in Estonia physically, but they are operating businesses here remotely, benefiting from all these services online, and really operating the businesses remotely. You don't have to relocate to another half of the world to operate businesses here and to be part of the startup nation, because e-residency program is exactly made for that. So this is really what enables more countries to benefit the online services, the authentication methods alike that are based on the strongest electronic identity that Estonia is using. And if you have if you have now more interest about this, then this is the website where you can learn how this e-residency works, how you can apply for it, what are the benefits, what are the requisites, and all of this. But honestly, we take a lot of pride that that there is a small army of positive minded people for Estonia or e-Estonia that want to be a part of our country in this way as well. Well, now to recap all of this, important pillars what Estonia has found about the e-governance are first the electronic identity. So however you want to technologically solve this in your country, that should be the door to e-services through the safe and reoccurring authentication every time that I want to log in. In Estonia, it is provided through the national ID card and with the electronic identity embedded in it. There are several, here you can see the several authentication forms that Estonians choose to use. There is the usage of physical ID card itself by the ID card reader, or you can use mobile ID, which is a SIM card-based authentication method, or smart ID, that is an application-based model, or the e-residency card that I was introducing here previously, and that is for the foreigners to access Estonia's electronic ecosystem. So next is the interoperability of the data, where already collected data could, let's say, speak to each other, right? Estonia is actually a very normal country, like many others, where a lot of its citizens' data is being collected digitally and stored in a distributed manner. However, this is kind of useless until the collected digital data has not been made available for the different authorized public and private databases to work with it, providing more than 3,000 different services in Estonia's case. So keeping all of the citizen data just in one network is extremely attractive for the cyber criminals. So you need to minimize the risks and you need to keep all the data separate. Of course, that is a very natural practice. However, the big problem for many countries is how you bring together all the data when the architecture is so sparse. Well, for us, the solution, we have solved this data interoperability problem by using the X-Road data exchange software. And that is exported to many other countries as well, and trying to be implemented in other governments, as well as many of them being in South America. And here last, of course, but not least, the security. So when you're designing e-governance processes, the security aspect needs to be built in by default. Integrity is a crucial part to maintain the trustworthiness of the data that we see, and to avoid also the legal loss or the duplication or manipulation of the data sets, the software components, or different log files, embedded files. Estonia is the first country to use blockchain technology on a national level. Here I need to mention that this is a safer standard in security, and that is not the cryptocurrency. But and none of the citizens' data is being held on the blockchain. Rather, having this deployed in the government databases, the history cannot be rewritten by anybody, and the authenticity of the data can always mathematically be proven. So that means that no one, neither the hackers, not the system administrators, or even the government itself, can manipulate the data and get away with it, that you wouldn't leave any trace. You will always leave a trace. So within these 3 pillars in place, there is a really good chance that a country can push on towards offering secure digital services that attract the interest of the population and is like a firm basis, a foundation for the modern information society. So when you see all of this, you might wonder, what does the future have in store for Estonia? It is very clear that Estonia is doing its best to remain an innovative, efficient, successful northern country, and we want to lead by example. We continue to develop proactive governance to be even more citizen-centric and use digitalization to improve people's lives. So the logic for proactive government services is very simple. Yes, 99% of our public services are available online, but how about government approaches us to offer them to us when it knows that we are entitled to them? This would also further decrease the burden of bureaucracy for both the people and for the state. And comparing to the current e-services that we have available, the new seamless services will function automatically based on the events taking place in a person's lives. So from helping future parents select family planning services once a pregnancy is detected, to notifying a young man of his upcoming duty for military service, to, let's say, becoming a pensioner, with the state notifying the elderly that their retirement age is approaching, and the government can offer several options, either if they wish to continue working or apply for a leave and to receive their retirement pension compensation. So automatization and the use of technology is never a goal on its own, but it must be used as a tool to serve the people. So digitalization is a never-ending, and I personally would argue inevitable process. So do you remember how my presentation started? A modest country that grew into a cool digital society. Similarly, I would say if you want digital society, make simple, user-friendly solutions where you focus on the improved life quality and not just turning bureaucracy digital. Estonia can back this up with our own experience in almost 3 decades in e-governance. I really want to thank you so much for your interest in the Estonia's digital society, and hopefully there was something that you can take away from my short speech today. Thank you so much for listening. I wish you very pleasant for the upcoming 2 days in this event. And now, if you have any further questions, I would be happy to answer those.
Vamos, posterior a la conferencia, vamos a ponerles a disposición a través de las redes sociales de la Cámara de Comercio de Lima la conferencia con su respectiva traducción. ¿De acuerdo? Para toda la gente que nos está viendo, por supuesto, Erika, nosotros quedamos súper agradecidos contigo, y Giovanni se está conectando para hacerte algunas preguntas al respecto de la conferencia que nos acabas de desarrollar. Giovanni, por favor.
Hola, hola, buenas tardes. ¿Qué tal? Hola, Jaime. Hi, how are you, Erika? Nice to see you again. Erika, thank you for your presentation. It was really clear. And although I have to translate some question from the audience, just give me a second to see which question we have to ask for you. Okay, this is the first one. Okay, first in Spanish, and after I will ask you the question in English, okay? ¿Cuánto tiempo le tomó a la sociedad de Estonia adecuarse a la digitalización? How long did it take to the Estonian population suit into the digitalization?
Thank you. We started our own whole country, right, from 1991 when we regained independence, and we started to build up a democratic northern republic that we wanted to be, and we are now. So that started back from the 90s, really, when we needed to construct all the country's procedures, all the different services. And to this day, all of these services, even though I mentioned that all of them are 99% of them are available online, then people have still possibility to use the services like a offline or in-presence mode as well. So this has been a continuing growth for us throughout the almost 3 decades that we have building our own country, all the services, all the different processes. And the key is not to dump all the e-services at once at people, because it's very complicated and no one can change their habits from one day to the next. So it requires a lot of patience, a lot of programs, and different help from government, from private institutions that help building up ICT skills, help building up internet network throughout all the country so that people could connect to these e-services. So it is a gradual process that is being held step by step. And here I would advise other countries thinking about digitalization to approach this not as a technological question, but rather a question from the human perspective, because why are we doing all this digitalization? For us, it is to facilitate people's lives and not just to turn processes digital to have a cool reputation. That is not the point. The point is to really use technology in our own advantage. So try to pick the low-hanging fruit first, meaning digitalize the simplest services that is possible to digitalize from the government's point of view, but at the same time offer digitalized services, these ones that would help people the most. For us, it was tax declaration. First, very easy to digitalize for the country, and second, huge impact for everyday normal citizen like me.
Thank you for your answer. En resumen, lo que nos explica Erika es que la digitalización en Estonia empezó a darse con fuerza a partir de los 90, en el año 1991. De hecho, ellos comenzaron con la digitalización de algunos procesos y es un trabajo de largo aliento. De hecho, hasta el día de hoy todavía ellos siguen en camino de la digitalización. De hecho, lo han llevado a un nivel superior, como mencionaba Jaime anteriormente, a mucho más allá del promedio de los países locales en Europa, pero ellos todavía están a un 99% de la digitalización, ¿no? Todavía hay un punto que me imagino que con el tiempo van a seguir implementando, pero en resumen ha tomado como 3 décadas el proceso de digitalización. ¿Correcto? Muchas gracias. Thank you very much for your answer. I have the second one and the last one question for you. Just give me a second. Let me read it. Okay, Spanish first. ¿Cuántas o qué porcentaje de startups llegan a ser unicornios en Estonia? How many startups became into the unicorns in Estonia?
Yes, good
It's a
question.
good question, right?
Exactly. Currently, we have 10 confirmed unicorns, which is per capita in the world the first. We have it's complicated to say the conversion rate, right? Because as it is in this sense, a very fluid topic that from the experience of the gentleman speaking before me as well, they said very correctly that you just the investors or the people around you will tell you that, oh, I'll give you 1 year and then we'll see that if you sink or swim and how it's going to be. By the end of 2020, we had around 1,000 startups. Now we have 1,300 startups confirmed. So as I said before, that our startup sector as a whole grows more or less 30% per year. But the startup sector is really large for us. That the startup sector paid for about 30 million euros in employment taxes in just by the end of the third quarter. So the turnovers are really large, and thanks to the startup community that I mentioned in my presentation, as well as the business angels network and different accelerator programs, the funding and everything of this, there is a very high probability to be successful in Estonia in the startup landscape. But at the same time, I really liked how, I believe Kevin mentioned earlier, that you just as you are really dependent on money, so you have to test quick, you have to fail quick, and you have to pivot very quickly. So this is the mentality of innovation that we in Estonia also celebrate very well, that if it's not scalable, if it's not working, similarly like the digital deathbed framework, come and try out your innovation. And if it doesn't work, pivot very fastly. So it is the trial and error, how to see if your service is going to be welcomed in the community, if somebody's going to find it valuable. But also important to note that as Estonia is a country of 1.3 million people, we are not the end market of all of our startups. Most of them find making business in Estonia very easy. This is why they're building the startup in Estonia. But being connected to the European single market, a lot of them want to go out and conquer bigger markets, and this is where the unicorns, the large amount of unicorns, really happen, because start small, test locally, but expand globally.
Thank you again for your answer, Erika. Lo que decía Erika, bueno, es una pregunta bastante compleja porque depende de muchos factores cuántas de estas startups logren hacerse unicornios. De hecho, las condiciones en Estonia sí son bastante favorables para este tipo de empresas. Mencionaba que para el año 2020 las startups habían generado, te escuché, me parece, 30 millones de euros, 30 millions euros, you said, right?
90 millones.
90, ok. De hecho, decía también Erika que un 30% de estas empresas tienen esta posibilidad, esta escalabilidad para lograrse crecer, poder verse como potencial unicornios. De hecho, mencionó también lo que Kevin había comentado en la conferencia anterior, que las startups necesitan también de bastante flujo económico, que hay que invertir pronto, hay que testear, ¿no? Hacer las pruebas, fracasar y nuevamente intentar para lograr estabilizar las startups, ¿correcto? En resumen fue eso. Yo quisiera nuevamente reforzar lo que mencionó Jaime hace instantes, que la conferencia para la audiencia que no es que habla español, va a ser traducida me imagino que para esta tarde o para mañana. Ya estamos con la traducción de toda la conferencia. Muchas gracias, Erika. De hecho, gracias por tu tiempo, gracias por tu presentación. Thank you so much, Erika, for your time, for your presentation. It's a pleasure to have you. Muchas gracias, es un honor tenerte aquí con nosotros. Espero en un próximo evento también contar con tu participación.
Thank you so much. It was a big pleasure to talk in your event today.